Cost Cutters is your family's full-service salon specializing in cuts, colors, and curls. Visit any one of our professional stylists today and get the look you want for less. Welcome to Making the Grade. I'm Dave Dickey, your guest host for the first segment today. And Superintendent Rich Dahman joins us, and nice to have you back with us, Rich.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be back.
Now, there was a very busy month last month. We had the election, and of course we had the referendum that was on the ballot, and the referendum passed, and pretty convincingly. I think everybody seemed to be very much behind this version of the referendum, and there are a lot of different areas that the referendum is going to address. So we'll talk about all that here in the next couple of minutes. But first of all, what steps did the district take this time around to make sure that referendum passed?
Yeah, and again, we are really excited that it passed. It ended up about 56% to 44%. And going in, I was cautiously optimistic going into the election. Some of the things, obviously the scope of the referendum was much different than from the previous year. This was the first referendum that had passed in over 20 years with Winona Area Public Schools, the first successful bond referendum in over 20 years. And it really was structured to address our most critical immediate needs for the school district. It was really centered around three key areas of safety and security, accessibility, and deferred maintenance or asset preservation. And to compare it to the referendum from the year before, it was much smaller in scope, much more specific about what items were going to be addressed, and would be paid off over a much shorter period, only 4 years, so a significantly less impact on the taxpayers.
Now, there are several areas that this referendum is going to address, and I know one of the main ones was safety. School safety has become such an important issue all across the country in recent years.
Very much so, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything to make our schools as safe as possible, and the referendum funds will help us to do that. A big part of the safety projects are creating secure vestibules in all of our buildings. We have those currently in some of our schools, but with the referendum passing and with about a $300,000 grant from the Minnesota Department of Education, a school safety grant, for Washington Kosciuszko School, we will be able to have secure vestibules in all of our school buildings once these projects are completed. The other piece of the security projects from the referendum include some improved camera technology and additional cameras in some of our buildings, and that'll be very useful too.
And accessibility, also a main point of this referendum to help address some of those issues.
Yeah, another piece with accessibility is some of our schools are obviously more accessible than others, and we want to ensure that not only our entrances and the ability to get into the school buildings, but also once whether it's a student, a staff member, a parent, or a community member, if they do have a disability or are in a wheelchair, that ability to get around is vitally important for them. So not only getting into the building, but being able to navigate around the hallways, the restrooms, the playgrounds for students will be more accessible with the funds from this referendum.
And then there's the maintenance issue. Buildings, as they get older, and I know over the years, some of that maintenance has been deferred to allow for programs to continue. How much will this referendum address for those maintenance issues?
Yeah, a little bit over half of the $9 million in the referendum is for deferred maintenance issues. Some of the major, and there are some of these projects going on in each of our schools, but some of the major are replacement of the original electrical work and plumbing at Jefferson School and at Washington Kosciuszko. With both of those schools being about 85 years old, there's a definite need for the replacement in those areas. Some other larger areas, we have an air handling unit at Goodview Elementary that's going to be replaced. The pool ventilation unit at the middle school is going to be replaced with the referendum funds. We'll be doing some work with our fire alarm systems in all of our schools. And at Winona Senior High School, the parking lot area will be redone. So very, very much needed projects in all of our schools.
I know the parking lot will be appreciated by a lot of people that use the high school on a regular basis.
Yeah, it really will. Not just our students and staff during the school day, but we have a lot of events there at night and on the weekends, and it's in very strong need of repair.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So when are these projects going to start? Have some already begun, and what's the timeline for finishing them?
Yeah, some of the next steps, we're hiring an architect and engineering firm. The board's next school meeting on December 6th coming up. They'll be taking action to hire an architect and engineering firm. That group then will begin working with us on the design of the different projects. We do bid the projects out, so that will take place this winter and early spring. And then the plan is that all of the work, the construction work, will take place over the next 2 summers. We have a goal of getting it done over the next 2 summers with as little impact on students and on staff as possible. So we will mainly be using the summer months to do those projects. The highest priority is on the security projects. The air handler at Goodview School are some of the higher priority items, and as I mentioned before, the replacement of the electrical work and the plumbing work at our 2 older buildings in Jefferson and WK are some of the priorities. But our goal is that by the end of the summer of 2020, that all of the projects will be completed.
All right. As these projects get underway, people always kind of like to be able to follow the progress of them. Is there going to be a way for people to do that?
Yeah, we've utilized our website. winonaschools.org has a referendum 2018 page on the website. We've utilized that to get information out to community members, staff members, parents before the referendum so that people knew what we were proposing. And now that it's been approved, we'll continue to utilize that same site to give people updates on the different projects as they're taking place. So we will be updating that as we work through the projects, letting people know where we are in the process, which projects are being implemented this coming summer, what's going to be coming up the next summer, and then how that process is working out.
One of the things that had been discussed was phase 2, as far as the referendum communications. So what is phase 2, and then is there work that's beginning for some of those longer term projects?
Yeah, phase 1 was what the voters just approved, and that really addresses our most critical immediate needs. Again, that's $9 million in funding. It will be paid off over 4 years, and we'll be implementing those projects over the next 2 years. What that allows us to do by addressing those most immediate needs, it allows us to take some time now to have a real conversation and study with our community to talk about how we want our schools to look over the next 30 to 40 to 50 years. And that's really what phase 2 will be. Will be that in-depth study and conversation with our communities, with our staff, our parents, our community members on what they want our school facilities to look like, and how will we best meet our students' needs, not just now in the short term, but also setting us up for the future. As I mentioned, phase 1, the cost for that will be completely paid off in 4 years, and that opens up an opportunity then 4 years from now when our taxpayers will have a tax decrease from these projects coming off of the tax rolls to bring something back to the voters to address those long-term needs.
So we had the very successful bond referendum here. What other district updates are there, and should the community be looking forward to?
Yeah, a few different things coming up. We're in the middle of implementing our strategic plan, which was put in place and developed last winter and spring, and implemented now this year for the first time, and we're excited about that. This winter we're going to be undergoing a transportation study, an in-depth study into our transportation program. We have a very involved transportation system because of the size of our school district, how spread out our district is, and the large number of both public, non-public, and charter schools for which we provide transportation. So we're going to be looking into that system, seeing if there's things that we can do differently, always with a goal to make sure that we have a transportation system that is both safe and efficient. And then another program that I want to highlight at Winona Senior High School is our REACH program. It's a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, with our higher education institutions here in Winona, and also with many local businesses. And last year was the first year for that program. It went really well with a manufacturing focus, and now those students have moved into their senior year, and they're still in that program with that manufacturing focus. But we've started a second cohort that's in the healthcare field. And it really is a great opportunity for our Winona Senior High School students to not only learn about what different job opportunities are available in the local area, but get out and do some direct work in those areas, in those fields, to try to determine if it's something that they'd be interested in as a career. Right now we have 57 students who are taking part between those two different areas, between the manufacturing and the healthcare areas, and we're looking to expand that again going into next year.
From what I know about the REACH program, it seems like it's been very successful. That first year I think went better than most people expected that it would, and it seemed like the kids really enjoyed it. And I think the manufacturers in town are benefiting from it as well. And I think they're finding out that there's some good employees out there yet.
Yeah, it really is a win-win and a great partnership. I know the Winona Area Chamber of Commerce has been very involved. Many local businesses, too many to name, have been involved. And then our staff at Winona Senior High School have been working, those three groups working together to develop a program that best meets the needs for especially students who are in their junior and senior years. When you're 17 and 18 years old, sometimes sitting in a classroom getting information is an important part of your education, but also getting out and getting some experiences is also an important part of your education. So it has been a win-win for our students at Winona Senior High School, but also for local businesses, for the Chamber, and for our higher education partners.
Yeah, I think it helps students understand and realize what their next step is going to be after they graduate high school. How much extra schooling are they going to need to get into this career that they maybe kind of stumbled upon through the REACH program that they really enjoy.
Absolutely, and it really develops great skills for our students.
Yeah, very good. Anything else we need to add here before I give it over to you?
Just one more plug on the referendum. A huge thank you to the voters. It is providing $9 million in much needed funding for our school district. It really is an investment in our students to be able to make our schools more safe, more accessible, and to address those immediate deferred maintenance needs. It really pays off for our students. So a huge thank you to the voters for their strong support of that. Also a thank you to the Facilities Task Force, and Wold Architects and Engineers, who led that Facilities Task Force, did an outstanding job of structuring a plan that not only met our needs, but also that our community would support. It doesn't do us any good to put together a plan if we aren't going to have community support. So I think that involvement of community members through the Facilities Task Force, and then the school board did an outstanding job of supporting that plan that came from the Facilities Task Force, putting it out to the voters, and allowing us to move forward.
All right, very good. Rich, pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Dave. It's good to see you again.
And when we come back, Rich will be in this chair, and Making the Grade will continue right after this.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
Stream live episodes of your favorite shows on the HGTV app. Download the app and watch the latest shows for free.
Raise your hand if you want to break some stuff. Whack it.
Because you're in control.
We're trying to help families get top dollar for their current place and get them into a home that works for the family.
Your shows, when and where you want them.
Are y'all ready to see your fixer-upper? Oh.
It's a big deal.
You excited as I am?
Done.
Stream now on your favorite devices.
Wondering where you can go to find great old movies?
Well, look no further than HBC TV 25. Each week, TV 25 presents the HBC movie, and we won't monkey around. We'll show you movies like Night of the Living Dead, Giant Gila Monster, The Fat Spy, His Girl Friday, and others. Join us mornings at 12:30 a.m., and for those of you with better sleeping habits, Saturday afternoon at 2 on HBC TV 25 for the HBC movie.
Schultz Strategic Gunworks, Sugarloaf Ford, and Brewski's Bar and Grill in Utica would like to remind you to make safe choices when getting behind the wheel of a vehicle.
Driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs is the #1 cause of teen deaths. Distracted driving increases your chances to have a traffic accident. Cell phones and passengers are both distractions to a teen driver. Drowsiness impairs driving performance and reaction time, thereby increasing the likelihood of having a car accident.
Cost Cutters is your family's full-service salon specializing in cuts, colors, and curls. Visit any one of our professional stylists today and get the look you want for less.
Welcome back to the next section of Making the Grade. This is Superintendent Rich Dahman, and joining me today is Teresa Pearson, English teacher at Winona Senior High School. Thanks for joining us today,
You
Teresa.
bet. Yeah.
It's in an exciting information. Teresa was named the Winona Area Public Schools Teacher of the Year recently, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and about her experiences as a teacher at Winona Senior High School. Teresa, maybe first you can share a little bit about your current role at Winona Senior High School, but then also talk about your teaching history and
Sure.
what brought you here.
Sure. First off, I started my education journey at UW Eau Claire and worked my way down here to Winona State and earned my teaching degree here. And my husband actually moved to the La Crosse area, so that's how I ended up in this area from Eau Claire. And actually, way back then, over 22 years ago now that I've been teaching at the high school, we had a writing lab out at the English department there, and one of the teachers out there asked me if I would come from the university and volunteer at the writing lab. And I said sure. And by the time I got done volunteering for the writing lab, they asked me if I would student teach there. So I said, sure, I'll student teach there. And before I was done student teaching, they said, hey, we have an extra section in the spring of this class, language and composition, which I'm still teaching today. And they asked me if I wanted to pick that up. And I said, sure, and I've been there ever since. I haven't left.
Those backgrounds are interesting, how people end up where they are.
Exactly.
And maybe not what you expected, but it worked out really
it was
well,
great.
both for the students at Winona Senior High School and for yourself. So share a little bit about what classes you currently teach.
Okay. I currently teach 9, 11, and I will be teaching 12th in a quarter. So I mostly focus on writing because my degree is in writing, so it's a writing emphasis attached to it. So I've kind of settled into the hardcore writing courses along with a multicultural literature course that I have. So in 9th grade, we teach all of the classics, Romeo and Juliet, that I just finished up this week. We teach the Iliad and the Odyssey. We teach a really strong poetry base and descriptive writing, and then a strong short story base. And then we work our way up, and by the time they're 11th and 12th graders, they're kind of branching off into their more areas of interest, and we're better preparing them for what path they're particularly going to go on when they head off to college or directly into the job market. So it could be something like a college-bound language and composition course, which I'm teaching right now, or it could be something that's more practical writing that they might need right on the job that they go right into. So I have settled in, I must say, I've settled into the AP track. So there are several of us out in the department who have specialties, if you will, in AP so that we can prepare those students for those advanced placement tests, which are very popular right now.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a great combination of preparing students both for any type of higher ed that they may have, but also for life skills and career skills.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about college and career readiness, you know, that is the term that we hear, right? But that is basically what we do. And we've always done that, but it might just be a little bit more intentional with the state standards coming down and our strategic planning that we have district-wide.
Yeah, excellent. I want to highlight and congratulate you on November 5th. You were surprised with the notification from the Winona Education Association named the Winona Area Public Schools Teacher of the Year. Share a little bit about how that played out on the day that you learned that.
We offer such a variety of courses now and opportunities at the high school that I now teach a 0-hour Langenkamp class, which that's for the kids who are willing to come in an hour early before everyone else. And so I'm teaching that in the morning, and as soon as that class finished up, I went back to the smart board to get things ready for my 1st-hour class, which is the same class, just different students. And I saw some people come into my room peripherally while I was up there writing, and if you've seen the video, you know. And I just told them, oh, I'll be done and ready in a couple minutes. Good morning, you know, sit down and get ready. And then I turned and realized they kept streaming in, and there were all of these teachers, my wonderful colleagues. And then when I saw my husband and son, that's when you notice the really surprised look on my face.
That's not a typical work day, is it, when they
I was like, why are they here? My brain just couldn't wrap around that. And then, of course, I saw the flowers and the balloons and realized, oh my gosh, this is really happening.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. Very, very well deserved and a great honor. Share a little bit, I know that you're involved, besides the classroom work that you do, involved in committees and different groups in both in Winona Senior High School or across the school district.
Sure. It's impossible to be in teaching these days without getting involved in so many other advisory type positions. I've been on site team for several years, way back when. I have done scholarship committees. I was a part of the initial group of high school students who went to Japan. So when we initially created that whole Winona Misato ambassadorship program, that Friendship Sister City program, we were the first group to go. And it was just absolutely fabulous. And so I stuck with that for 5 years. It's one of those things, once you get going on something, you know, you kind of have to stay with it long enough to give it that strong foundation. And now, of course, it has completely taken off and all sorts of people are involved. I've been on National Honor Society Council, and Link Crew has been something that I've been really close to and helped kind of get that off the ground. And I did that for almost 10 years. And so I've kind of backed out of that and moved on to some other things as well.
For people in the audience who might not be familiar with Link Crew, do you want to share a little overview of it is a vitally important program.
Yeah. We know now, after all of the research that's been done, that it's really, really important to kind of shore up that transition period when you have your 8th graders coming in as freshmen into high school. And it's also really important for us today, certainly with character education, you know, maybe not being what we would like it to be. It's really important to have the upperclassmen be be leaders rather, and take kind of a leadership role with those incoming freshmen. So we link, thus Link Crew, we link the juniors and seniors that are hand selected through this quite rigorous recommendation process, and we link them with the incoming freshmen, and they do activities throughout the year and help them with that transition process. So it's a pretty big deal, and it's all across the United States.
I know that there's a lot of studies that show that if students get off to a good start coming into high school, that first semester of 9th grade is vitally important. And if they can be successful there, they usually do well the whole way through.
And we do the best we can with the parameters we have, you know, and it's not 100% successful all the time for everyone. So it just takes some people a little bit longer to get on track.
Anything that we can do to make that orientation and that step from middle school to high school easier, and it provides kind of a mentor at the older grades too for students. So thanks for your work over the years in that program. In addition to being named the Winona Area Public Schools Teacher of the Year, any other awards or recognition that you've received throughout your career?
Well, I have to be honest with you. My main priority is the classroom. And so one of the things with being involved in things outside of the building, right, is that when you're an English teacher especially, and you have stacks of papers every night and every weekend to take home, that really makes it pretty difficult to get involved in a lot of other community activities, to get involved in any of those other things. So as far as actual awards, when my ex-students email me every fall and thank me for helping them out. They're now in college or they're now on the job and they're like, hey, you weren't kidding. I really did need those skills after all. You have really helped me out. That's my own little mini award that no one gets to see. It's not the kind of thing I put on the wall. It's not a plaque that goes on the wall.
But that really is the best recognition, isn't it?
That's what I do.
When the students come back and share how valuable your course was and the work that you did
that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's excellent. What are you most passionate about with your education work? What drives you to be a teacher and to continue in education?
Quite honestly, I came from a family where education, although it was valued from a distance. People were really hardworking people. My grandparents were immigrants, and education didn't go quite the way they were hoping that it would go for them, maybe, if you would. And so for me, I'm the first member of my family to graduate from college. For me, it has always been education is the key. And I try to impart that, on my students. I try to make it very clear to them that yes, it's a right in America to have an education, but it's also a privilege. And if you want any type of movement, if you want any type of feeling of success and feeling of, yes, I've accomplished something, education is the key. Short of winning the lottery, right? Yeah. You're not going to move from one social class to the next without education. And so I really do all I can to try to make that very clear to them that although it's a right, yes, it is a privilege. And if you work at it, boy, oh boy, the payout is something else.
Absolutely. And what do you see as some challenges right now in education?
Challenges in education, several things. Of course, resources, that's a serious problem. It's a serious problem for me right now. I have to write for grants to get, extra books and that sort of thing, to get replacements, that kind of thing, which we all know. We're all having funding problems, but it's a problem. Class sizes, a problem. There's a myriad of things. I mean, maybe for another session we could talk, right? A myriad of issues, but my class sizes, resources, and one of the bigger things might be that it is pretty overwhelming and daunting with the influx of so much technology. And technology is wonderful to use. I love my smart board. I love Schoology. It's great stuff. However, at the same time, it's such a distraction for the students with the cell phones and all of the entertainment out there and the Snapchatting. That is a serious challenge for teachers today.
And life is different for students and for teachers than it was in the past, and technology does play a big role in that. So I think an important part of our jobs as educators is to find that balance. Just like you said, to utilize that to help students learn and prepare them for the next step, but also to make sure that it's not a distraction to their learning. What are the next steps as far as your Teacher of the Year award? Is there anything else coming up with that?
Coming up, there is something with Education Minnesota. So it's basically a process that you go through. So every Teacher of the Year throughout the state of Minnesota then will all come together up in the cities and basically kind of go through a similar process. So that's where there will be recordings of the classroom, what I do in the classroom, a lot of additional online work for me, and then we will all get together and celebrate education.
Excellent, yeah. And I want to thank you for coming and for being with us on Making the Grade. Is there anything else that you want to add or anything that's coming up the second half of the school year in your classes?
Well, there's plenty coming up the second half of the school year in my classes, most definitely. We're busy, we're always working. I just want to thank all of my colleagues, because without them and without the mentors that I had, those wonderful people who helped me and supported me in my early years of teaching, and of course my students and all of the fabulous parents who have been very supportive of me over the years. I would like to thank them for me even sitting here with you today. Without them, I wouldn't be here.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do, and congratulations on being named the Winona Teacher of the Year. Very well deserved, and thank you for joining us on Making the Grade.
All right.
Cost Cutters is your family's full-service salon specializing in cuts, colors, and curls. Visit any one of our professional stylists today and get the look you want for less.